To me, jacking off is the same as skateboarding. Like, it feels that good.
Those skilled at the unorthodox are infinite as heaven and earth, inexhaustible as the great rivers.
You made the video, Rocco.
He is the best thing that ever happened to skateboarding. I don't know if anybody else thinks that.
Single-handedly, he took over the market. Steve Rocco.
I would say what Dogtown did, the image and the impact they left, World Industries absolutely left the same imprint, but in a different way, different foot size.
When Rocco started World Industries, it was like an answer to everything that was happening in the skateboard world.
And obviously, y'all are old enough to be mature enough to know that that is not made for skateboarding.
It was like a revolution in skateboarding.
I thought what Rocco was doing had a good energy to it.
He was just all about skateboarding and all about having fun, and it's how he ran his business.
I just walked up to him, told him not to fuck with me. I take it personally. He stole riders. He took new guys and turned them into superstars overnight.
And I think he invented baggy pants.
I love Rocco. Kill Rocco.
Not video me. I don't want to be on video.
Steve is a hell of a nice guy, but he doesn't have much of a conscience.
They put out pornographic graphics. They went against religion. They did things about drugs and guns. They did not hold back. They were not the Mother Nature skateboard company.
Mixed in with skateboard articles and stories of graphic sex is an article that details how to kill yourself.
I used to keep 2 guns at work. It just seems like we were always starting a lot of controversy.
From a business and a marketing point of view, I thought it was very impressive because he was so successful at it. But then again, I thought what Hitler did in Germany in the early 40s was also very impressive in how successful he was at it. That doesn't mean that it was all that good.
The industry has its own set of rules. They're always like, this has to be like this, and this is going to be like this, and skaters can only get $1 a board, and that's the way it's got to be. One of the great, tactics of war, when you're going up against an opponent, if you read, The Art of War, you take the other guy's rules, and you break every one of them.
Once upon a time, there was a man. He wasn't a prince, nor a frog, but he did own a pig. The man's name was Steve Rocco. And this is his story. Rocco lived in Hermosa Beach, California, with his 6 brothers and sisters. He was the oldest son of a hard-working Italian descent dry cleaner. As he grew, Rocco became exceedingly good at riding his skateboard, doing tricks on the boardwalk. What he was doing was called freestyle, and by the late 70s, Steve had become a master at it. The best freestyles in the world would get together and duke it out for top dog status, an honor which typically ended up with Steve. That is, until 1980 when a 13-year-old introvert from Florida appeared on the scene. His name is Rodney Mullen.
Well, basically, the contest was between me and Rodney.
Okay, so I won the contest, and Steve was a little upset, and because I probably got little kid points, it's true.
But I wasn't mad at him, who could get mad at Rodney? I was just mad at the judges because they were just sort of lost.
4 months later, I ended up staying at Steve Rocco's house, and he treated me like a little brother, and I was just like, wow, this is just the biggest of dreams.
We'd go skate and hang out, and it's not like anybody else you've ever hung out with.
And suddenly I realized, wow, he respects me. He was like my first friend, and he's my hero. But he's rotten, and so it was just as strange. And he adopted me, so he showed me so much freedom and rose. But he was always good to me, and he was not good to not in a immoral way, but just he was just harsh, Did it with a smile to people, and that would just ruin me because I wasn't used to that. But he never did that to me, and I felt protected by him.
Who's gonna win this thing?
Mullen. Rodney Mullen.
Are you sure?
Yeah, boss.
Why?
Fast. Shreds. So good.
While Rodney was staying on top of his game in freestyle skateboarding, Steve ventured off and was more of an innovator in street skating.
But all of a sudden, here was Steve with these checkered Vans doing this hand plan off a curb. And I remember the day I saw that, I go, yeah, this dude's a kook, man, but he's on it.
Looks like a good run so far. What do you guys think? Come on, let's make some noise.
Like the Vertskes were rock stars, you know. They were doing the beer, the bones, and the babes or whatever, you know.
Tony Hawk!
Father Don Brown, skate provision.
Freestylers, we never really had anything from the beginning. Like the Vertskes were looking down from like 10 foot out of a vert ramp, we were always looking up from the ground bottom going, there's something more out there.
At this time of skateboarding, there was a big business side to it. And the guys who ran it were the Big Five.
We'll call that period benevolent dictators. And the benevolent dictators, they made a lot of money, but the money passed through. Money went all the way down. The riders made a lot of money. I mean, Christian Hosoi was making $250,000 a year.
The Big Five were Powell Peralta, George Powell, Stacy Peralta, Vision, Brad Dorfman, Santa Cruz and Independent, Rich Novak, the media moguls, Fausto Vitello at Thrasher, and Larry Balma at Transworld.
Number one, skaters can't own companies. Brad Dorfman told me that. Skaters aren't smart enough to run companies. Skaters aren't smart enough to do ads or marketing or know what other skaters want. When somebody who's like a gazillionaire tells you that, you just go, man, that's a bummer. Oh, well, that's it for me then.
Steve Rocco's the new captain of the Sims team. Can you tell us a little bit what your expectations are for their team?
Well, we're going to get a little more organized. We're going to get a few more top competitors on the team. Hopefully we'll get better. I also run the Vision team, and they're doing pretty good. We took a first. We took 2 firsts, actually, and we'll probably take another first today.
I met Rocco when he was Vision team captain, you know, and he was a bit of a loose cannon over there. You know, he'd walk in there and he'd load us up with stuff, even though we weren't even Vision riders, which was pretty cool, because needed some money to eat at that point, being just a traveling skateboarder. He always seemed like a bit of a wild card, you know.
At about this time is when Steve got the old boot from Vision, and the rest is history.
Skip and Nadas had dinner at a Mexican restaurant the night that Brad kicked me off the Sims team. And went to Skip and go, Skip, it's over. My life's over. Or nothing I can do now. I'm going to go back and work at my dad's dry cleaning store. Skip goes, no, it's never over. Don't worry about it. No big deal. He goes, meet me tomorrow, cash out your credit card for as much money as you have, and I'll show you how to make money. So he takes me to this wood shop where these old Italian guys make bar stools and dinette sets from the 60s. I gave him all the money I had, $6,000, and I bought 500 boards. And Skip showed me how to get them screened and where to sell them. Within 3 weeks, I'd turned my $6,000 into like $12,000. And I was just blown away. It's the most money I ever had in my life. And 2 weeks later, I went to all the same places that bought my boards, and I go, I got T-shirts, and they go, we don't want T-shirts. So I was pretty much out of business right from the start.
Out of nowhere, Rocco calls me one day. And I was kind of shocked because, you know, we never had really a rapport of hanging, you know. He says he wants to talk to me about maybe starting a company. At that time, I had just got off of Pal Peralta on the Bones Brigade tour, and it was one of the best times I had in my life, but it ended really shitty. And I don't know what, but the guy talked his talk. By the time I walked out of that place, I'd pretty much made up my mind to go to nothing. Some of the last words Rocco said to me that day was, I sort of feel the industry has turned on me in a way. I've had some bad experiences. Now I want to turn this around and run this industry and show these people out there that I can rule this industry one day.
Oh, there was no vision. It was just get up in the morning and do stuff. Just whatever needed to be done.
I knew I was taking a chance from the rumors, and I made a phone call that night. Talked to Stacy and said, what's the deal with The Rock? He goes, ooh, he's a shifty guy, man. You got to watch him, you know. That's when he goes, he used to be a car salesman. You remember that, right? And I go, oh, you know, car salesmen, they can talk the talk.
Steve was a good car hand. He peddled a few product for us, and he took to sales. He was a good salesperson, yeah. People loved him.
After I blew all my money making T-shirts, I went to John and go, hey, I want to borrow some money to make skateboards. He goes, you don't want to borrow money from me. You want to use Kirby. Kirby's good luck. He goes, you borrow money from him, and you'll be a millionaire in a few years.
At the time, I was doing car financing with him, and I said, as long as he's not doing drugs, I got no problem. Well, I thought they were talking next Tuesday he'd come over. Well, within 15 minutes, he hopped over this wall here and landed here and knocked on the door.
I actually offered Kirby half the company for the $20,000. Company, of course, at that time was mostly in my imagination. It wasn't quite a company yet. But Kirby goes, no, just pay me back $2,500 a month for a year. So that was some pretty heavy interest. Within 6 months, I had to borrow money just to pay back the payments on the first lump.
So now I'm going, okay, we just borrowed this astronomical amount of money from some pretty mean people. Didn't think things were going too well. I was pretty much wrong because Rocco was hustling like a madman.
The way means inducing the people to have the same aim as the leadership, so that they will share death and share life without fear of danger.
I didn't even ride for Rocco, and somehow Mike Valley was at his house not riding for him either.
I was a potential pawn in his game, and he got the hooks in real early.
Steve Rocco was a master at feeding those egos, the Gonzalez's egos, Nadas' egos.
Mark Gonzalez, your favorite, is one of the top street style competitors. For those people who don't know what street style is all about, can you tell us a little bit about it?
It's just skating on ramps and stuff, little obstacles, like mainly, I guess, just anywhere on the street.
What makes you one of the better street style skaters around?
I don't know. I just skate a lot.
I don't know who started street skating. There's no definite person.
The great-grandpa was Mark Gonzalez, and his best friend, at least it appeared to all of us, was Nadas Kappas. They created the idea that street skating is a kind of skateboarding.
And Steve was saying that freestyle skateboarding was old, and look at this, here's street skateboarding, and I'm gonna make this into something.
John, you're known for your street style abilities, street style skating. What's it gonna take to win a street style contest like this?
Not a street skater, just somebody who can get as high as air as you can. And you can call that street skating, but I don't. I was a pro skater in the 80s, so I was probably one of the first guys to do my own graphics, do my own shapes. I ran into Rocco. He was a friend of mine from Division days. And I'm all, well, I'm trying, Steve, but I don't really know where to begin, really. He's like, well, I got this going, I'm doing this, and I'll show you the ropes, I'll show you everything. I'm all, well, that sounds great.
Sarah got a good taste of Steve, I think, at the beginning, like, whoa, he's a wild man.
And the product we were getting together wasn't satisfactory for me. The boards were falling apart.
I swear to God, he must have went to a toothpick company and said, make me some decks, because they were snapping as fast as toothpicks. They weren't exactly up to par what I would say that Lucero board should be.
Basically, John Lucero bailed out. And I went to Rodney and go, Lucero owns half of the primetime distributors.
Next thing I know, Steve bootlegged the first Lucero boards that came out. And needless to say, I wasn't very happy about it.
Then I go, for $6,000, you can buy Lucero out.
He only did like 1 or 2 runs of the boards, which I think is fucking funny. I actually have one. It's got Kill Rocco on it. Me and my team rode those Kill Rocco boards around for a while. It was pretty good.
Rodney was like getting on a plane, like right then, and I'm just like, I need the check now.
And this madman got money from a loan shark, and his first investor bailed out on him, and he wanted every cent that and so I was like, oh.
It was more or less, give me $6,000 or I'm gonna be out of business next week. And you don't want that because I'll probably be living at your house.
I was like, okay, here you go. And right there at the security gates, I went through like this, like basically still with him, and he took it.
He saw the opportunity in that a skateboarder wasn't being listened to anymore. And that's why he could get all the top street skaters at that time, because the companies that they were involved with didn't really think that they have much value because they weren't vertical skater.
Rocco asked me to meet up with him by the beach to go skating. So I basically auditioned, in a sense. I skated for about a half hour or so, and he took me over to the warehouse, really small warehouse, a few products on the shelves, just the Rocco board. Warped. They were warped, and yeah, it was pretty low budget. But he put me on the team, and of course I was really excited.
Rocco was the shit when he would skate those benches down at the pier, and so I would skate with him, and his company was building, it was gaining a lot of momentum. Like, he had Jesse Martinez, which to me was one of my favorite skateboarders of all time, and to ride for the same company as Jesse was a big plus for me.
There was only so many street skaters, and he was down with the illest dudes, Mike V, Mark, Natus, so I was following everything those dudes did, and so he was like a link. To me, that was the realest you could get. It was like skating for God.
World Industries was the first thing that shifted from like the whole death metal, punk rock, like skulls and serpents and all kinds of stuff, and to be the first like really humorous skateboard company.
I think kids like the fact that we talked to them like eye level. We weren't speaking down to them. We weren't making them feel like kids. We were just straight up like, look, this is how we see it. This is how it is. And they were like, yeah, I like that.
And kids were buying the magazines in those days only to see what World Industries would do for an ad.
You get an idea, you put it down on paper, and then it's driving everyone nuts. Either people love it or they hate it.
We were like, why are you putting us in ads? What do you mean? You guys are the amateurs. You guys are good. You guys are going to turn pro. This is a year before we're even turning pro.
I just love doing them. They were just so fun. It was just probably the biggest creative outlet I've ever had, besides skating.
I think it kept its youth of what skating was at that time, too. It wasn't like, oh, here's the ad, here's the trick. It's like, oh my God, he didn't just say that.
You just can't take anything too seriously. If you do, it just look at Rodney. you become paralyzed, like, I can't move. And that's bad.
This is a true superstar, as good as they get. He's been skating half his life, but he's no airhead. He's in a top-notch college studying to be a biomedical engineer.
I had high blood pressure, I had all these things, seeing the doctor, and Steve goes, Rodney, just leave, come with me. And so summer was coming up, I was finishing my last bit of school, and I thought, there's nothing left for me here. And Steve is my only friend. And yeah, I'm going. And Steve was so excited.
Rodney! No, shit, don't do it! Here. This is your message from your boss. And here's your sheet mark. No more freestyle for this video. You have to street skate now.
Entitled The Bear to Focus Rodney's Board. Team Rocco, exalted.
I get a phone call very soon afterwards from George. Why don't you come with Powell? I mean, we've always been a home for you. He goes, okay, how much have you invested? What are the practicalities? I need to get you out. I will pay Steve whatever you've invested, and we'll pay it back with suitable interest or none. But you need to be out.
How did Stacy and George deal with the riders and all that? I honestly have a Powell Peralta rider's manual.
And this is the Bones Brigade, the elite, what they expect out of you at contests, what they expect out of you when you're shooting photos with someone. Basically, hey, you're representing Powell, and if you don't act like this, you're...
Boy, that really seemed to rub some of the guys like Mike Valley. I mean, I think that was the main reason Mike Valley left, is because of that manual. Just infuriated him.
Powell Peralta felt so corporate and felt so, I was so alienated by the whole thing that I was ready to do something radical and, fuck it, I didn't care.
Oh, so you want to go skating?
Mike had one of the best-selling boards of Powell, and Mike was the man after the video running through the graveyard, and he was the emergent new street skater at the point.
I was the top street skater in the world at the time. I was also an emotional wreck, So I was just kind of like, if they could just, and they could. They knew they could work me over, work my head, work my heart.
So Steve's going, hey man, I've been hanging out with Mike. It's just, I don't know what's going on. Mike's not happy. And I think he wants to be with us. And so you guys should talk.
Rodney made me feel like we were doing it. We're leaving Powell Peralta together to start this new thing together. But I don't know that we were really together. You know what I mean? I think I was just the necessary ingredient to make the whole thing work. If it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else. But it had to be me because I was the right guy at the time.
But I just remember the phrase, "If you do, I will." And we shook hands. And we both came out, Steve, we're doing it. And Steve, instead of being joyous and jumping around like he's kind of animated, he's like white. It's like, and I go, what's wrong? We saw you be. And he goes, now I realize, like, what did I get my friends into? You have everything set, and oh my God, like, I thought Kirby was pressure. This is a whole new, you guys are my friends. It's like, how am I going to do this? Mike's used to selling how many boards? I can't even pay for that many boards. I'm going to need money. Can you guys cough up a check?
The PAL team was really tight. So when they took Rodney, it's like you taking my leg, literally. They fucked PAL.
Our company wasn't a company. We didn't have a mission statement, like we have to make this much profit on everything. 66 boards a day. That's how many skateboards we gotta sell. If we can sell 66 skateboards a day, it's all good.
All of a sudden, Rocco started creating this image of, I don't know what to call it, Sesame Street, Wampa Room, or some dude with a half a brain. I don't know, but he started coming out with this off-the-wall wacko shirts and shit, and I just thought, oh man, we're dead for sure.
Watch it down with water so you don't...
Everything just had to have an edge to it, or something that made it not just some like mindless drawing.
My initial concept for the board was it was going to be this like folk art style graphic of just like peaceful looking animals on the board, like on a farm type scene. The board would say, please don't eat my friends. So it was going to be a very strong vegetarian message board.
Steve would get an idea from a skater. He would, put his spin on it. Like, yeah, make sure you draw the slaughterhouse and make sure you put the World Industries logo on the side of it.
When I got back, what I saw was this fluorescent cartoon, almost like a parody of my idea, or at least it seemed that way. I didn't get it. I was very offended when I saw the graphic. I thought they were just making fun of me. And Rocco tried to explain, no, we're not making fun of you.
I mean, Mike's got to admit, that board was awesome. If we did it like he wanted, it would have been gay. It would have been gay. Who in the fuck would have cared? Bunch of peaceful animals. I mean, that's great for, you want to put it on your bedroom wall, but what does that have to do with anything?
I was appointed early on to do shapes. I had the time, and that's what I like to do.
Rodney really was a revolutionary guy as far as board shapes went.
I remember working with Mike, and it was like a big kind of freestyle board, and it was this brand new double kick mold, crazy long nose. You had no choice because it was double kick, right?
I bribed the guy who made the Vision mold with $6,000 cash to let me take it.
So we got that early on, and so that board was a first product that was so advanced.
It hit the market really hard. It exploded, and it changed everything.
Everything that wasn't cool, we did. Because we were just like, you're defining us? Is that what you're doing? And just came out raging, and Steve was the perfect guy for that. And we all felt and we all knew because we all knew, that was us.
I saw Steve Rocco with the first double kick board. He'd put a new board together and come skate it on the Strand to break it in.
We were all street, and I remember somebody commenting to me, I can't remember who it was. He goes, you guys are dead men. Told me this when he found out who our team was. And I go, we don't have any vert guys. And he goes, you're never going to make it. And I told him, hey, Rocco said it's a new world.
We're trying to bring this company up, and he had his amateur skating. He had his mindset on what we were going to do. If it wasn't me, Ron, or Jeremy taking first place, we were getting first, second, or third. So anywhere we went, we were taking control of any place. So
we were the first guys to bust out with an all-street video. Rubbish heap. Just fucking blew everybody's mind. We said, we don't need a fucking 25-foot vert ramp. We got all these acrobats. World Industries was, let's buy a fucking crap-ass camera and just shoot anything.
Rubbish Sheep was whatever. It didn't have any music. It was cool. Just skating, clonk, clonk, dunk, 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 down the sidewalk. It was great.
Yeah, I remember that. It was cool. It was no big deal because back then you either had skills or you didn't.
And that was the first time anybody went just off the wall like that. Some crazy lady stretching, looking goofy, and
this is my friend Ron Chapman.
Making fun of each other. And
he's 18, I'm 18. Dude. No. Tell him something. Hi, I'm Jeremy Clark.
What about your kid? Rob, what about your kid? I'm 18, he's 18, everybody's 18.
It wasn't even like we were filming a video. It was like we were just skating together, and Spike was filming us. And Spike was just a guy that was always hanging out with us. So it wasn't even like, hey man, you guys got to get this trick. We would just show up at schools and just skate.
To finally see Jeremy Clant skate was like amazing. He could do like every trick of the time, like backside Smith ground on a rail. Like people just recently, like 5 years, have been like back Smith ground and rail. So that was a big deal.
We didn't even get to watch our footage. We didn't have video cameras where we could even watch our footage. And Spike was on this lame little tangent where he would say that we couldn't watch our stuff because it degraded the footage, which I still don't believe today. I didn't get to watch my footage until the day of the editing of the video part. So that sucked, but I mean, the video's cool.
When most people wouldn't do business with their friends, Steve had open arms to do business with all his friends.
Mark Gonzalez. Gons became, in his mind, rich. I don't think he thought that, he needed Brad anymore. He came to me and he goes, hey, let's start a company. And I go, great, let's do it. We got to think of a name first. And he goes, I already got one. I go, you do? And he goes, yeah. I go, what is it? He goes, blind. I go, blind? What do you want to call it blind? He goes, it's the opposite of vision. I go, okay, let's go.
Steve kind of laid out his deal that he had with Mark, and it seemed a lot more fair and a lot more flexible to get things done. And so he kind of wrote it out and said, give it to Santa Cruz and see if they'll match the deal. And I did, and they couldn't match it. It was kind of a better deal that seemed more fun. So we went off and started 101.
Steve was successfully the first person to put many different brands under one roof. Mike Ternowski from H Street saw that, and he wanted to be a part of it.
But I think what Mike really wanted to do, what he felt like he needed to do for himself, is he just wasn't happy with this great thing that we had created together. I think he wanted to feel that he had a big enough hand in it himself to where he could actually go and do it himself.
Mike was fed up with the same stuff that everybody else was fed up with H Street, and knew that it was time for change, and knew that we could do something completely new that would just be so much more powerful and refined.
Steve, he thought double in building his partnerships. Number one, he wanted the best. Two, he also wanted the ones that would harm his competition the most.
Hi, this is Jason Lee reporting for the Channel 5 News. And right behind me is the ever so famous Eiffel Tower. Put the camera up, take a look, and we'll be back after these messages.
I was skating for World. I hadn't turned pro yet. To my surprise and utter excitement, Mark wanted me to ride for blind. And Rocco said, yeah, cool, no problem. Which I thought was great, really cool of Steve to just let that happen. I mean, that was a huge thing for me, And for a while, it was just the two of us, living at his house, taking trips, going wherever we wanted to go. We would go skating at 5 in the morning at the Ralph's shopping center down the street from his house. I mean, that was a real time of high energy and a lot of creativity.
I was initially the only guy selling a ton of boards, and then once more other skaters started coming in, I was like, we're an army. We're an army of well-marketed, well-established names,
If you got on World, you were the shit. If you quit World, you're a fucking idiot. Basically.
You got treated like gold, so why would you go elsewhere?
But I was pumped, for sure. Like when somebody would learn a new trick, it would actually be a new trick that nobody ever seen before,
Everybody pretty much got along, you know what I mean? There wasn't too many fights.
Yeah, this is your board. I was like, what? I have a board now? Like, great.
It's like, it's our thing. It's our secret club.
Go to sleep thinking about what you're going to skate the next day.
Their bad influence just rubbed off on me, and I sold out.
A military operation involves deception. Even though you are competent, appear to be incompetent. though effective, appear ineffective.
Everybody underestimated Rocco and underestimated what was going on, and that little kid that's punching the big guy was about to be the big guy, you know, like...
He was about to be the bully.
He was actually like broadcasting change to skateboarders around the world.
Actually, he changed what company owners should be, which is actual skateboarders. Maybe, you know, you can sit there all day long and say George Powell was a skateboarder. I don't know if he was. I'd never heard of him.
And then the quote came out, "Business is business," from George. "The war has been declared." With all my might, I believe that's a direct quote. And that was where it took a more serious tone.
We were distributing at the time some of those products, and we had calls from one of those big three forbidding us, period, to distribute world industry products. You are not allowed to. If you do that, you will not be distributing our product.
When George ran that ad making fun of small companies, something in me just snapped. I lost it. I was like, what in the fuck is this? Are you kidding me? We're lame because we're like a small company? And I went, okay. He wants like, there's no rules, there's no nothing, we're just gonna have war? Before it was fun, but now I had like a mission. My mission is to destroy George. Either we're gonna go out of business or he's gonna go out of business. I can't go out of business because Kirby's gonna kill me if I can't pay him back.
And when I saw Rocco going for the throat, you know, for going after Pal Peralta, I just couldn't believe it. And I couldn't appreciate it. I couldn't respect it. I couldn't get behind it. I didn't think there was anything cool about it at all.
And that right there is Rocco in a nutshell. Like, one ad took Powell down.
Dear George, after seeing all the ads lately, especially yours, making fun of new or small companies, I realized how stupid I was for having one. Dude, you were right. Small companies are cut.
Hey, Powell's lame. Look at these fucking Powell boards we're making fun of. It's great art, and it's funny. Who's going to buy the Tony Hawk board when you can buy the Dodo Skull board, you know? I'm not. No way. If you're riding the Dodo Skull board and the guy next to you is riding the fucking Tony Hawk original board, he's a fucking nerd, you know?
Coming back out of the 80s, going into the 90s, George had to be tired. And some guys, like, it's this little yappy dogs that bite you in the ass, you know? So here's Steve yapping at his ass, you know? And I don't think he really saw how bad it was until it was too late.
And that board sales went. Just died. It was like, and Rocco's went straight through the roof.
And I remember hearing stuff like, you know, World was like 80% of market share, you know, throughout the United States.
My first $1 million in sales, or I talk just in your pocket.
He came down from the traditional industrial pedestal of the dialogue between the end consumer and the manufacturer. He came down onto the same level and spoke their language and shared something. And there he bonded.
We looked at all the rules that everybody else had and went, this is stupid. We're not playing by these rules. We're going to have our own rules. And I think everybody was so blown away at first, they were just like, this is an outrage. They didn't even know what to do. They were just like, you can't do this. And in the meantime, we're doing it. And by the time the smoke cleared and they tried to adapt to our rules, it was too late. It was done for them.
Yeah, in retrospect, he did help me because he helped open the doors for smaller skateboard companies.
It was a very interesting time to watch skateboarding transform from corporate to skater-owned, and it didn't take a long time.
What would Rocco do? You know, we were thinking about start launching a new brand. How would Rocco do this?
All of a sudden, you know, the street skaters were getting paid 10 grand a month for a guarantee. Because the kid's 16, he's getting 10 grand.
But I think it was necessary to shake out all just the oldness of it all, you know?
And I call that the communist era because they didn't pass the money through to the industry. The money got kept in these spots or burned and then they ran, cut and burn. And it's kind of like communism. You know, they just, you get to starve while I live in a big apartment.
Condas is A-okay. All because of Ron. At World Industries, we buy our guys the best blankets possible.
It is not simply the United States against Iraq. It is really Iraq against the world. And again, none of us wants war.
dangerous shit than this. Just keep doing that.
Dude, I'll give you $100 and I'll take you out to Benny Hannes if you slide that 75-foot handrail. I'll give you 600 tries. I'll be back next week. Yeah.
When that video came out, it was like the stuff they were doing. I mean, it was insane. It was like we'd have our piece of paper and pencil, like writing down tricks they were doing, and we would just leave the house and go wax a curve and just try it until we made it and just land a trick like they did, super sketchy, and just be like, yes!
Anybody who could afford a skateboard, steal a skateboard, or buy a skateboard, or just get a hold of something that looked like a skateboard, I think they're all interested during that time.
I don't have a board, Spike. Put the camera down.
It's all about connection and connecting to skateboarders. The artwork, the content, just connected to that time.
Like back then when I was a kid, and I'm like, oh yeah, look at all the new world stuff, it's so sick. Like all the boards and graphics, like pretty gnarly stuff on some of the graphics, like Accidental Death Board, like all those ones are super, super sick. McKee, who knew he was such a genius?
When you saw something Mark McKee did, you give Mark an idea and go, I want you to do this, and you get it back, and it was better than the idea you actually had. It's like he read your mind and go, okay, I see what's in your brain, but it's not that good. We're gonna make it better than what's in your brain.
One of the things that was so exciting by that time was the actual art on the boards. I mean, these guys were as important to the movement of skating as the actual skaters were, because they were just as mind-blowing artistically as these guys were physically on a skateboard.
You know, graphics were changing like once a month, 10 new graphics coming out. You like one board, you go back to the shop to get it, no chance, new graphics.
The boards were just cool. They were like cool hip-hop album covers, you know, and they fit everyone's personality.
I remember having the wall of cease and desist. They all became a blur after a while. And they were sort of funny. We hung them up like badges of honor. Everybody tells you to cease and desist, but no one ever does anything about it. It was so funny. I just got, here's a cease and desist from Dr. Seuss. And what the fuck's he gonna do? He's like 80 years old. Was he gonna beat us up?
Neither of us really had a social life, and like that was all we did. At least I didn't. I don't know if Mark did, but
no, I didn't either.
We're just two nerds, like just drawing all day long.
People always used to, you know, you guys are a pussy company, you just do cartoons. You're not hardcore like us. And I looked at their boards and what is so hardcore about like a skull? You look at a Pusshead graphic and go, who cares? Like, well, that's scary. That's not evil. And so I'm talking to Mark and go, man, let's make something that is truly evil.
Mark McKee does this thing, comes back, unveils it, and it is both barrels. It's just gnarly. It's got the and Jason's looking, he's like, that's something.
My initial reaction was, I don't want this board to be out with my name on it. I don't want to piss people off. I don't want to upset people. And Rocco was more in a position of not caring, which I can respect because, you know, you got to do what you want to do.
Mark, who for some reason actually believes he's a Catholic or, you know, has some sort of religious background, even though he's probably never been to church except to skate, told Jason, if you ride this board, something bad's going to happen. I mean, it's evil. It's evil. Evil, I tell ya. Talks Jason out of it. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, can't have that happen.
And Steve Rocco is suddenly loving this because all morals are built on price. Well, in this case, it's like, how much do you want? Because Jason's name was huge, the company's doing well. I'll write you a check. I believe it's $10,000. And Steve, I think, did it in red ink just for kicks. And he's like, "Wow, how much?" And Steve was loving it. Ripped one off the computer, wrote it in hand, a big no-no, and here you go, Jason. What's it gonna be?
Oh man, are you serious? 10,000? That was so much money to me. I took the check, and it's funny too because Rodney tried to talk me out of it too. I don't know if he said that, but he did. He said, "It's not good, Jason. It's not good. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it."
Devil. Kills me to say Mark would be the angel's role, but that would be his place in a sense, like don't do it in that sense. And so you got these guys tugging Jason so hard, in many ways the most influential people in that part of his life, and Jason took the check.
That was one of those moments where Mark was being very serious, you know, and he said, "If you're not into it, don't do it." And so it was nice to hear him say that, because that's when I was able to say, you know what, I actually don't feel good about it, and I never really did. So we drove back, and I gave Rocco the check back, and it pissed him off.
I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what are we gonna do? We've already got the graphic, we're already making the stuff. Nodis wanders in, sees the graphic, and I go, "Hey Nodis, you want that graphic?" And I never thought of it for Nodis because people always believe like Nodis, Satan, backwards, even though that has nothing to do with that.
And so I thought it'd be a good board for me to have, sort of a poke in the eye of the people who have all these kind of problems with it and didn't really address it rationally, and so we put it out there, and I still like it.
The rad thing about World was like, I remember the Love Child tour. What was that tour really called? Like the Hell tour or something, right? And I swear to God, I'd never been on a tour like that, like still.
Steve Rocco was like a rock star owner. And not, I'm saying like living that lifestyle. He treated the writers like, dude, these are my guys. These are like my kids. And he was just like hooking it up, like, let's all go on a shopping spree. It was like, what, like $4 grand or something?
You're buying all that. What do you want, guys? Put it on the...
He was like a big old uncle, you know what I'm saying? Like, with hella money. He could just throw it at us, out the window, you know what I mean?
The one everyone likes to do and buy it and give it to him.
He would always stay in 5-star hotels for everybody. He was never like, I'm putting myself here and you over there. That was one of the things that he railed upon.
Now the richest 1% of the world. Told you guys were on the wrong elevator. We were just having fun. And it was amazing. We had money coming in and we could do whatever we wanted. There was no one around to say no. That's what I think I enjoyed the most. And after a while, man, that like, it goes to your head.
We'd have like thousands of dollars worth of room service bills, and Steve would never, ever like, he was never mad about it. He'd always just kind of laugh it off. But Rodney, on the other hand, Rodney was a penny pincher.
Let's see if Rodney can use his physics. I mean, the only person that ever said no was Rodney.
Oh, airplane contest. Airplane?
And nobody ever listened to him.
Look at the car right there.
Okay, I got
the sunroof.
Okay, right in the sunroof.
No.
Easy.
How?
Like this.
No way.
At that time, Rodney still, just freestyle. He wouldn't street skate. And, I kept always trying, but just never had any luck with it.
Mike Tanaski, he came to Steve. He goes, "Hey, what about Rodney?" And Steve, I was like, "Look, I can't make him. I'm a mule. I'm so stubborn."
And I would just be pulling him, and Rodney would be digging his heels in, just, not going.
He goes, "Rodney's not going to do it. I've tried." And Mike's like, "I can do it."
The selection of Rodney was like, Mike wanted to make champions out of people. Maybe that sounds corny, but he did. He wanted to give everyone glory. And Mike went up to Rodney and said, you've done it once. You've already conquered freestyle skateboarding. You're already the greatest in that genre. You've created all these tricks that people now rely on heavily. Why not do it twice?
And Mike T was the first guy to, slowly get him with the carrot.
He lived in San Diego, so every weekend I would drive down there, stay with him, and he'd give me the talks and just feed me like protein shakes and stuff. It was funny, like he was so hands-on.
Mike was just so much smarter. He would just be hanging out with Rodney and take a carrot, throw it over there, and Rodney would just like creep over. And he'd go, "Oh, look at that. Yeah, you're street skating, pretty good."
Mike was so, what an orator he was. He could make you believe. And he believed in me. Or at least he made me believe he believed in me.
Rodney, he's by far the techiest, the most skilled street skater on the planet, Doesn't go the biggest, but as far as his board control, his trick ability, and his commitment to make something, he'll spend a month on a trick. He'll try it 5 hours a day until he works the thing out,
I don't think there was anybody else who wanted to do it because they knew it would be over.
Mike didn't let go of me, and that changed my life in a lot of ways.
At one point in skating, it was like, to be the man, to be the shit, you had to be top 15 minimum. And then you were a scraggler after 10, but still, you got wrecked. All of a sudden, I started noticing this change. Rocco started creating these, I don't know, movie guys. They didn't really have to do much. They didn't have to enter contests. They didn't do shit. All you had to do was be this crazy freaking little maniac.
It lasted about a couple weeks and fall apart due to lack of good management. Doesn't really have a chance. The team's not that hot either.
I guess Mike Tanaski just knew that these were the next guys that were going to influence skateboarding for the next 4 or 5 years. We saw the ads like, who cares about these 5 of these 6 pros? I mean, who are they? Like, but when that video came out, questionable, it just blew people away.
You always knew that there was something new that was going to come out, but to actually get on a round bar and grind it on, on pieces of metal, just no one could even, understand how that was possible. And the way Pat made it look just blew everybody away. And I think that's basically what got me to the point where I said, I'm going to be doing this for life. This is what I want to do.
He had his editing studio at his house, Mike did. And so anytime you came over, he would bring you in there and go, look at this. Look what Danny filmed today. Look what Mike got today. You gotta see this Rick footage. And so that was always like, just to know what everyone was getting pushed you really hard.
Everything we did was almost a risk-it-all thing to get to the next level. And it was like starting with $1 at the roulette wheel and just betting it on black, and it hits, bet it on black again. And you start with $1 and 30 times later, you have like $1 million. You're like, holy crap.
Steve did a good job as far as like keeping the team together and having us all hang out.
Yeah.
Just
have a good time.
Yeah, just aside from skating, just having a good time, just hanging out. And that's why he built the World Park.
You and all your friends are skating it, doing the freshest tricks, and everyone's psyched. You never see somebody do a trick and dudes in the background I
just think it was just this little small time period in skateboarding where it was really pure. It was just skateboarding.
Skate all day, go eat maybe after, go back to the park at night and skate all night. And then maybe get drunk. And even then we'd skate after getting drunk sometimes,
Oh my God. That's one of those experiments in nature that just should have never happened. You don't ever look at the downside, you always look at the cool side. Wouldn't it be cool if we had our own park that you could just go to anytime you want? It was never supervised.
Tim Gath.
What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? It seemed like such a good idea.
It was just running amok, tagging on the walls, skating with blank boards down the steps, climbing the walls.
Spike, what are you doing on my phone? You're wasting my battery. Hello?
Punching holes in the walls, breaking shit. It was chaos.
We had bunk beds. Remember those bunk beds? People would be jacking off into pornos in the bunk beds, group jack-offs. I was never in there. With a bunch of 15 and 17-year-old girls bunking there. Overnight bunk beds, beer, everything that you can imagine. It was crazy. Sweat, skating, people falling through roofs, boards getting stolen. Editing bay was there, video was done there.
Just filming every day. Lost so many jobs. Just had one job after another. Just didn't care. Just get fired. Oh well. More time to skate.
The first time I ever did acid was right there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I was tripping out.
What'd you trip out on?
Just grinding.
Just grinding things, you know?
Yeah, we let them do whatever they wanted, basically. It's too much energy to try to control them, and it's almost more fun to stand back and watch what they do anyway. I mean, they're probably the most entertaining group of guys in the history of the world.
There's nobody else like Rocco today or yesterday. There will never be somebody else like Rocco. We had the utmost respect for him, yet we talked mass shit to him, but we loved him. And we did whatever he said because we knew that he knew what he was doing. Everything he said was right.
There would always be problems with writers and graphics, or they didn't like the color or whatever, and Steve was like, fuck it. And Rodney was all, he would have to go talk and deal with whoever was upset, you know what I mean?
It was quite an unusual operation he was running, and he just ran it like a little dictator, which is what he specialises in. He's an excellent, and he'll tell you too, and he'll be like, well, you know, dictators run great businesses, and that's what he was. He's a great sort of a Napoleon, Hitler kind of figure, and he ran it well.
In early 1992, Steve was trying to run some controversial ads in magazines.
So I go, no, the ad's going in the way it is. And he goes, I think you got to talk to Larry.
And he had me on the speakerphone. I mean, there was a room full of skaters or something too, and whatever. And I said, well, let me tell you my story, you know?
He goes, I had a friend in high school, and he killed himself.
So now, me being a publisher, do I want to publish that with a chance of some kid might think that that's a cool thing and kill himself? And I expected Steve to say, well, no, I understand.
I go, man, Larry, that's a bummer. I feel sorry for you. I go, are there any other bad things that happened to you throughout your life? I go, maybe you ought to like put them in a note and give it to me so I can know, never do those things when I run my company.
But he just went ballistic. He said, that's your story. That's not my story. That's your story.
And I just go, fuck, dude. I go, I can't do that. I can't like run my company by what bad things happen to you. I go, you know, we want to run the ad, and that's that. He goes, well, you're not running my magazine. And I went, okay. Then we won't run any ads in your magazine. We're out.
So he used those magazines and asked their readers, what should he do? They replied, start your own magazine.
Steve was like kind of embarrassed because, you know, he had just come out with this 2-page ad saying he's going to come out with this magazine, and then the end product is kind of lackluster. And he had warning labels slapped on saying it was free and it was a piece of trash.
We weren't making a skateboard magazine, but early on especially, like, we were hiding behind skateboarding and making a ridiculous magazine just to entertain us.
Basically a zine.
And Rocco was great in letting us do that. You know, really hands off for the most part. He'd have ideas for articles that we would take and bastardize and ruin.
It was such a blur of things that were distasteful for me.
It was a closer map to what skaters were really like.
It was like a porno mag for kids. We finally had access to a magazine we could look at with tits in it, and we didn't have to be over age.
Cover your nipples, because this could be a good cover shot.
At the time, Big Brother was cutting edge, and no one else was doing the things we're doing. We had nudity, drugs, profanity, and life topics, and just twisting it, and it was definitely fun times.
Well, the one article that really did it was the How to Kill Yourself. That was in issue 3, I believe.
That was the start of it. That's definitely the first, like, the outside world got aware of us and got mad at us.
Sold as a teen skateboard magazine, Big Brother has upset a number of local parents. The magazine suggests hanging and explains how to use a cotton cloth or tie and a doorknob. It also recommends slit your wrists and explains the best way to make the cuts.
Cheers, Rocco. You taught me how to get off my head, and if I didn't like it, kill myself after.
It's like being an addicted person. Like, as soon as you finish reading it, you can't wait to see when the next one was coming out. It was like that. It was ridiculous. Like, everybody where you go is like, oh, you got the new Big Brother, or when the new Big Brother coming out?
We had an office that was in the World Skate Park. This guy Earl just shows up. Like, it was just me and him for a little while. Yeah. Because these guys were over at World. They were spending their days doing graphics and then coming over at night working on Big Brother. So all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, who's this guy?
Steve kind of treated him special because he was like this 17-year-old punk, you know? It was like, God. But he had some really, really good writing talents.
I never even really liked it that much. My friends didn't like it either. I just did it for the money, pretty much. Can I take another break?
But none of the world skaters liked him at all. He was a little item for them when they came to the skate park after they got bored skating. They'd go torture Earl, you know.
There was like a little room where he worked on the computer, and then everybody wanted to beat him up, dude. It was fucked up. They're all spitting out the window, telling him to come out. Remember that? I felt so bad for that dude.
As much as I loved how creative and stuff it was, but there was a point where it turned into a real mob mentality, and I didn't like that about it.
Hey, bullseye.
What are you doing?
I'm taking a poo.
Doing the videos was a natural progression from the magazine. We didn't know what we were doing, but just starting to collect the footage. It just was the same exact process.
The article that I was going to write that Jeff recommended me film.
Well, I'm Johnny Knoxville, United States of America, and I'll be doing a little article on self-defense equipment. Not good stuff.
Hit me!
And it was where I tested self-defense equipment on myself, stun gun, taser gun. Dimitri hands the camera in through the window. He goes, okay, just kind of push play here and stop there. I'm like, what, you're not going? He's like, because the bulletproof vest I bought it was like the cheapest one they had, so they didn't know the success rate.
Forget it. Look at the powder burn.
That's kind of how I started contributing to Big Brother.
Sal Rocco should be thrown in as part of the staff of the magazine. He was such a wild card. We'd let him answer letters and
Yeah,
ask Sal. We started to call him Ask Sal.
Maybe he just respond with just filth.
Dude, Sal Rocco, that motherfucker is nuts. Like, that dude was funny.
And Steve's brother Sal was one of the shippers. And he was crazy from the beginning.
Like, Sal's just out of his fucking
Sal
head.
was horrible.
I loved him though. Like, he was amazing. Just seeing him going in there and like just all fucked up. He was always just fucked up.
And we're doing 110 miles an hour on the freeway at 2 a.m. in the morning. Sal just pulls out the gun and across Kobe, rolls down the window and fires 4 shots.
The best Sal story was when he tried to sell his kids for money for drugs. That's pretty much the raddest thing I heard of him, but he was sick. I love Sal.
I tell you now that Steve will never, ever win another game of ping pong. For the record, he sucks. He's fucking about this big on the ping pong court. I'm serious. I got a bad attitude. Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. Earl Parker's biggest thing in life was to get smoked weed, and same with Sal. And they always complained that they never had enough weed. So I had this ingenious idea telling him, why don't you guys write a letter for people to send in the weed and you guys will grade it how good their weed is. I was amazed how much weed could go through the mail with not being like people getting arrested. Through that, the Bong Olympics started.
I just look back fondly on that. It was just a really fun event. Seeing people smoke weed competitively. I think it basically came down to like who could clear a bowl the fastest.
My person I thought would come through, his name was Captain Stoney. And I was like, this guy's for sure gonna win. He's the biggest stoner I know. He's gonna win.
So he was clearly the favorite going into the Bong Olympics, but he was no match for JT.
I loved the fact that it pissed people off. Steve is anti-drug, and still he wanted to put a pro-drug thing in the magazine. And it was another power statement. I can piss people off. I can do things about drugs in holy Christian America.
I always say a company is something that you create and you breathe life into it, and then it becomes huge, and then it becomes a monster, and then it hunts you down and tries to kill you. And Big Brother basically had done that to me.
If you are so nice to them that you cannot employ them, so kind to them that you cannot command them, so casual with them that you cannot establish order, they are like spoiled children, useless.
You just like to have fun, and you like to just work with things, and he'd get totally into them, and he'd get him up to this great point, then kind of just turn his back and find something new to play with.
But to him, it was more, this is skateboarding. This isn't like gigantic corporations. This isn't like brain surgery stuff. You know, we're having a skateboard company, and it was really fun. It was exciting. And it was a lot of craziness, too, and a lot of it was like flying by the seat of your pants because you never knew what was going on.
I always think of Steve as if you gave a 10-year-old unlimited money and said, now, be sensible with that, you know, then that's what he's going to do, is just spend it on the first thing that he sees.
or the thing that he's wanted. So in a way, Steve is a pretty sophisticated business guy in the way he can analyse things and see opportunities. But in another way, he's sort of, the way he spends money is quite childlike.
Money is just the tool to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And I didn't make it like that. I mean, when I was born, that's the way the world was. I just adapted to it.
With success comes so many problems and temptations. Spending money. Steve likes to spend money. He's always been the same.
Rodney sees all the bad things happening, which I'm just oblivious to. So he thinks if he loses all his money, it's over. And I think if I lose all my money, oh well.
There's a lot of money being spent, and the guys, by their nature, were just going, hey, what about me? And we go, look, we've been more than generous with you. But that's not the point. You don't really see outside that box sometimes.
I feel like Rocco really kind of corrupted those guys in many ways with money. You know, you give a 17-year-old kid a few $1,000s a month, and that's a lot of money.
$100 bills paved the way to fun.
Y'all make like $5,000-6,000 a month just off the boards alone, you know what I mean?
You know I'm the Sex Pistol. Yeah, I pull so many hoes, dude. I got more game than Parker Brothers.
That was cool. I wasn't tripping. I was buying a car every month. I had a new car. 100 of them. I'm buying them all the time.
I know the shit's going crazy now. It almost seems like things are about to explode. I'm thinking, you know, this is it. Rocco's got a Porsche now. He's out front doing donuts, and the writers are spending money like shit's going wacko.
When I saw the success and the murmurs and the things, and you have all these things stacked around you, and you realize how tenuous the strands are that hold them together, and how much that they're flames all around these strands.
My career was ending already while I was still with World Industries as far as the skate community was concerned. It was like, you know, Rocco had brought so many new guys up.
The stuff that was kind of always under the surface, of course, got exploded. Where's my money? I don't have any money. Your board isn't selling anymore.
He got what he needed out of me, and now it was time to throw me away.
In many ways, we planted our own seeds of destruction. There's no question about that. We were culpable. Absolutely.
To be honest with you, Rocco himself was bent on destroying me. He had to have the last say, and his last say was running an ad, pretty much bent on destroying my name in the market, you know? It was a vicious attack in public.
I remember it being pretty devastating when Mike quit World, you know? That had such an effect on the sales, you know what I mean? But like, it was just kind of an unstable time altogether, you know?
After a while, I just thought, it seems different, and Mark came up with the name, and I just don't know how good I felt about it being carried on without him. So I left, and that didn't go over so well.
Rocco isn't paying any attention to me. I need some fucking attention here. So being the guy that needs attention, I quit the company and rode for Tony Hawk's company, but I mainly quit because it just seemed like a new opportunity, you know?
What happened at the end here with everything is really private, because Rodney and Rocco are still some of my best friends, and I've never once been the person to confuse business with friendship.
We are still friends, but there are things you have to manage as a business, and things become a little protracted and cloudy as to what relationships really are.
It's like, you know, if you set up your business ethos as like, fuck everyone and everything, you're gonna get fucked eventually.
You're getting paid millions more dollars than just that measly 100 at pocket change.
Rocco, and Spike Jones came to my office one day and said, hey, I want to catch up with you. I want to talk about this project I want to do. Wouldn't even tell me who the riders were. I can go, he's been pretty close to the World Camp over there over years. It's probably people defecting from there.
In the beginning, we liked the fuck you, we don't give a fuck about anyone else mentality. We didn't want to be like that. You know, we wanted to do a fun little thing. We didn't want to tell everyone to fuck off. We just wanted to do our cool little thing.
As Rick became more educated about the business of skateboarding, I think he saw ways in which he felt Mike was taking advantage of the team.
Rick Howard and Mikey called me up and they said that we're going to start this company called Girl, Don't Skate For Him. So I said, all right.
When Rick told it, it didn't even take like 5 seconds. In an instant, we were like, oh yeah, you know, let's do it.
Getting for Rocco was just like, couldn't even find him. I mean, we were dealing with Rodney Mullen, you know what I mean? And then like, went to Girl, and it was like more of a family, you know what I'm saying? A friendship with everybody, you know what I mean? It was real. It wasn't like no fake shit.
There was frustrations, unanswered questions, and just being so young. Who knows what the truth and what isn't the truth at that time, you know?
They thought Mike and they thought Rocco, and everybody was ripping everybody off, and
It really wasn't like that. It was just misperceptions, you know, and it sucks that it worked out that way.
A couple weeks later, I guess we went on tour. Rocco paid for it, and we were like promoting Girl the whole time. You know what I mean?
They made their statement right there. They didn't say a word. It was just show up at the contest, wearing and riding those boards, and that's how they let us know that we're gone, and we started a new company.
World Industries at the time was left to vanish. Everybody was gone. It's like throwing you out in a war without any guns or even clothes, dude. The clothes issue's not that important when you're in a war, but still, come on, you want to have clothes on and no weapons? That's how they got left.
That was literally a kick in the balls out of nowhere. You had no time to brace for it. You had no time. You didn't see it coming. It was brutal. I mean, it was...
Tell Steve Rocco to fuck off.
I think Steve made some poor decisions. For example, you know, he used to say Brad Dorfman had all the toys, but he wouldn't share them. Where Steve had all the toys and he shared them. When you give a kid everything, you suddenly have a spoiled brat in your hand, and they don't know any better.
What Rocco thought of guys like Brad Dorfman and Santa Cruz and George Powell and stuff, he kind of became. He kind of became that guy. A little complacent, a little wealthy, you know, and probably didn't see it coming.
You realize that you're not that great. You're not all powerful. You're not all successful. You're not Midas. That's one. To another level of you're fighting off allegations and stuff, and people are looking at you sideways. You would never think that that could happen to you. These are people that you know, you've built things with, you have real relationships. Suddenly, they're looking at you with this look. And that's hard to live with.
Okay, here's the thing about skaters. It's pretty simple. You set them loose, they do whatever they want. They will destroy everything around, and you can sit there and laugh at it, but the problem is when they're done destroying everything, then they go for you. There's nothing left. There's nothing left for them. And that's when you have to reassess how you're doing everything.
We, Steve in particular, after Girl, had much more difficulty relating to the guys. And he felt betrayed in many ways. Did he reach out to start relationships, invite people in the same way he used to? That tapered off for sure.
At that time, he also brought in a couple more business-minded people to start managing the company. Frank Mespin and an accountant who's maybe a little more on ball than past accountant.
That company was pretty much a fiasco. The accounting was, oh God, how can I be nice?
Well, World was basically, I mean, it was complete chaos from a traditional sort of organized business point of view. Steve was in charge, but he was never really there.
I was pretty footloose and fancy free all the time, just going off to Lanai and doing fun stuff. Frank would go, "You got to come back. We're gonna have a meeting, and you have to be there." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "You just have to be there."
Rodney was sort of running the production side of things, but he's not really a business guy.
Don't order the wheels and then find out the price, okay? It's just not, I can't even tell you how upset I am. It doesn't make sense. We're making very little, next to zero. So what do we do?
Was putting the right people in place a solution to some of those aches and pains and sleepless nights? Yes and no.
Right before the Girl guys left and we had our first $10 million year, you start to realize, like, man, these numbers are huge, and man, you can make a lot of money. And then right after they left, you realize how fast you could lose it all. You go from making, a few $100,000 a year to like losing $1 million in that. And that's when the magnitude of the numbers hit you.
The owner and publisher of Big Brother refused to be interviewed for our story. His name is Steve Rocco, the brother of Sal Rocco, who owns Bitch Skateboards.
It would have looked really bad if Steve went out and actually attacked these guys. So they came up with this idea to make Bitch Skateboards, which was a direct attack on Girl.
The guy behind it is my brother Sal. He's nuts. Seriously. I mean, it wasn't even me. He just did it. I thought it was funny. You do it, and it got way bigger than it ever should have.
He was pissed. He was like, he took those guys leaving personally, man.
And he straight up then came out with like the cock series. Tim, you know, the Chinese man, Lil Cock, Eric, the gay cock, whatever.
I was happy I didn't get a board, man.
You didn't get a board?
No way, man. I was like, yes. Oh my God, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was fucking funny. Just little Chinese wiener.
I thought of bitch skateboards more as like just a fun little trend, you know, real quick in and out. But at one time, they were hot. Bitch Skateboards was the #1 company in Japan.
ビッチの方が有名になりました。ワールドインダストリーはスケートボードをする人しか知りませんでしたけど、ビッチはスーパーマーケットとか、デパートとか、あらゆるところでいろんなものが売られました。
I mean, I was just excited about being, you know, at the very center of the skateboard industry, working with a company like World and seeing it grow. It's really fun for me.
Frank taught me how to let go. You know, when something's not making money, you have to take that money that you're putting into that, put it into something new, and have it make money.
They figured out Big Brother wasn't making money.
Yeah.
And in fact, losing quite a bit.
You guys are on your own. You know, that's it. We're not going to put any money into it. And then Scott Drouillard came to me.
We gotta like just fund it. I'll watch the costs because I gotta package this thing, and then I think I can sell it for, you know, a few $100,000.
And I was just like, who in the fucking world would buy this magazine? It's crazy. There's no one in the world who goes, Larry Flint.
I thought it was great, you know, I loved it, you know. Somebody needs to be pushing the limits of the First Amendment all the time to make sure we're getting our money's worth.
Man, I'm telling you guys, we went like right to their bank, Union Bank, and we just said, just give us like irrevocable cash or money orders or checks, man. We just want the money before these guys figure out what they really bought.
Would you call yourself an attention getter?
Oh, no. Not at all.
You don't do this for attention?
Yeah, I'm low-key.
You're totally low-key?
Yeah, I'm fully low-key these days.
The more insane part of it is this crazy guy, Sal Rocco, running a skateboard company.
Sal was starting to get on, you know, he was starting to get his, as we would say in the rap world these days. So he was doing really good and he was really happy. And then I don't know what happened as far as like the business end of things. Rumor has it that Steve took bitch from him.
We sold 25% of our company to our Japanese distributor for $1 million just to keep the company going. And basically the paperwork consisted of almost like a little yellow Post-it note that said, here you go. 20 that was your share certificate, a Post-it note.
But it got so big and it caused so many problems in their family, fighting over money. Sal, little Sal, he got rich too quick and he couldn't handle it.
I don't think that Steve could have thought that like a consequence of him starting a company with his brother Sal would lead to like a rift between him and his dad, Big Sal.
That was a big blow. That was the year of the Reaper, we call it. As Mike Chernesky and the Rodney's mom and my dad all went like the same year. And that was a tough year. That was a toughie.
Attack when they are unprepared. Make your move when they do not expect it.
Mike made me promise never to attack girl. He goes, I want you to think outside the box and I want you to beat him, but I want you to beat him in a way that's never been done before. Nobody recognized in our industry, at least, that all the kids starting to skate at 8 to 12 years old, they don't know who pros are. They don't want skulls on their boards. They want something cute and fun and happy.
The first time I drew it was for our receptionist's birthday card invitation, and I showed it to Steve.
It wasn't until Mark McKee drew the Devilman graphic that I realized this is how we could beat girl. This is something that they not only can't do, they won't do it, and this is how we'll win.
I think what was appealing to Steve is there's absolutely no ethical boundaries to these characters. Good is Wet Willie, bad is Flame Boy. The guy who's sort of adjudicating is the Devil Man. So it's already a really strange kind of idea.
It was pure strategy from Steve to start Wet Willie, Flameboy and Devilman. I mean, he'd had a mutiny of team riders and he was going to make sure it didn't happen again. But it was equally brilliant because it was sort of a foretelling of where the market was going to go with young skaters coming into it. So he kind of got the best of both worlds.
Steve immediately saw it. He goes, that's it. That stands for everything we've been about. It's just a different form of the same statement. We're going to take that and we're going to run with it. And Mark ran with it. He just kept going and going and going. It was one brilliant thing after the next.
You gotta keep them separated.
None of our brands were doing well. When we introduced Devilman, Flameboy, and Wet Willie, our sales on decks tripled in 1 year, which is huge. World Industries had just taken off.
And as the companies grew, they became somewhat more corporate. They became much more in tune to respecting the intellectual property rights of others, and because they had their own now, and they wanted people to respect their stuff.
Simon Woodstock and Rich Mederver, they did an ad. It was funny. It was funny. I still think about it. It was funny.
Steve did not like that. He took it pretty personal. At first, anyway.
And I said, what do you want to do? And he said, first of all, that is a great advertisement. That is awesome. That guy's awesome. Now, kill him.
They were like, well, what about all the stuff you did and this and that? And I go, man, that's where you're blowing it. The first rule is tear up the rules. I go, you're trying to do stuff the way we did it. That rule doesn't work anymore. And that's why you're going to lose here.
Even the filing of the action there, it wasn't about the lawsuit. It was about sort of responding back with, hey, I need some respect. It was never about the money.
Simon Woodstock just basically started crying. His life was down the toilet. And Mederver was just, he sees the end. He sees the writing on the wall. So what do you want? I go, I want $100,000 right now. I want you to write out a check, and I want you to leave the industry and never come back. And I go, you got 10 seconds. And they did it.
Clown down.
Rocco is the guy who pretty much started the huge commercialization of skateboarding and got it going, so he's pretty responsible.
People that say it's not a good thing must not want to make money or something. I mean, I want to make money. I want to be able to chill out when I'm 25, 30, not have to worry about working. I'm glad. I'm glad it's happening, and I know half the people you talk to that want to make money skateboarding are saying it's a good thing as well.
Good shit always gets ruined when it gets commercialized because you bring in a bunch of people that wouldn't have got into it because that's what their heart desired. They only got into it because that's what they saw on TV. The whole skating thing just turned into this huge, rolling, out-of-control snowball.
Skateboarding had no rules before. But if you want skateboarding and everything to get bigger, things change.
You talk about the word, corporate. You guys are corporate. And you're everything that you didn't want to be or said you wouldn't be. And yeah, that's hard. I wrestle with that a lot. Like, am I?
The freedom was gone. And that's one of the things when the company got that big, that was hard to deal with.
Steve loves a Scooby snack, a snack of cash, and if somebody puts a Scooby snack in front of him, he's gonna snack. He just can't resist. He loves cash. He loves cash in the bank more than life itself.
You never really think about just being able to get out and stop. Well, you think about it, but it just doesn't happen in our industry. Everybody just gets big and goes under.
In late 1998, World was the biggest skateboard company ever sold. It was even the first one on the stock market. The Swander Pace Venture Capital bought it for $20 million. And that's it. The end. Almost.
I think he lives large in Malibu in a trailer home, I hear. I hear he was in the LA Times just recently.
Steve sees the money that he's made as a grand victory, that he slapped the face out of everybody that never believed that he could do anything but play.
It was manure so we could blossom. You know, it fertilized so many great things. And it's always these reminders that this is what you are.
I mean, think about it, Rocco. If he didn't come about, what would we be stuck with? Would somebody have come along that changed it? Probably, but not the way he did.
Or I wish we could try to do things like he did, but skateboarding's grown too big to a point where everything will be censored. You can't. I don't even want to talk about it. You can't do anything.
Who is the skateboard industry today? It's skateboarders. It was the kids that were coming up, or some of the established pros at that time that started their own brands because Rocco showed them that they could. Rocco showed them that they didn't have to be George Powell, an engineer, or Brad Dorfman, an Orange County businessman. You could be a skateboarder and do your own thing, create your own brand, and make it happen for yourself.
The imprint World Industries has left on skating will be there forever. Just like Dogtown did. It will be there forever.
Either Steve was the most genius skateboarding guy in the whole world, or he was a complete lunatic and had no idea what the hell he was doing and doesn't even know to this day, which people marketed as genius. Or he was just like the luckiest guy in the world, had no clue about anything, and doesn't even know what he did today.
I love World Industries. Is it recording? Oh.
When Big Brother became available, I felt there was a wide open market for it. Yes. I'm in the middle of a TV interview. Okay, we have to do that over again.
Skateboarding's really awesome.
When I see skateboarders, I think of daredevils. You know, they're extreme.
So how is skateboarding like making love to a woman? I find absolutely no resemblance whatsoever.
Fucking crow's not gonna ruin my interview. They're amazing. They're smart animals. They're very smart. They know. They'll go all sit in a tree, right? And you can be walking by with your gun or bow and arrow. They won't do a thing. And as soon as you turn like this, they'll just fly.
I thought, you know, by then I'm not part of the company anymore, so I really don't know what's going on.
Jesse,
yeah.
It's Rocco. He wants to say something.
Oh, bastard! I've been looking for him. Rock. When's my check coming? You don't want me to break out the evil stories. I'm holding back right now. They've been asking me too. They go, come on, there's more than that. I go, there's some evil ones. I just can't tell you. They're like, come on.
So Mike Chernaski
democratized skateboarding because of his videos. He created the idea that everyone can just go out of their house and ride the board. Didn't really like that, actually. That was a little long-winded, and I'll get better at this.
Just keep one thing in mind, and that is that 80s and 90s, I was kind of not there. So many things that I remember from the 80s and 90s, people have told me, because I was really not aboard. No, I have pretty much memory loss of 20 years, but people have filled me in. I got a whiz. Ah! Oh shit, dude. There's a whole restaurant over there.